Ricky Skaggs might appear to some as the quintessential country and bluegrass icon, yet his story carries far more twists than most fans realize. For decades, he's been hailed as a humble maestro with an otherworldly talent, a man who picked up a mandolin as a child. But beneath that polished narrative, rumors have whispered of backstage battles, artistic betrayals, and a faith so unwavering that it sparked fiery debates. Viewers often picture him wielding a mandolin with unshakable ease, but there have been moments in his career that nearly derailed everything he had built. The question is, how did this small-town prodigy navigate the volatile music business to cement his name among the legends? Some will say it was pure destiny. After all, not many youngsters receive standing ovations from bluegrass royalty before they've even outgrown their first set of overalls. Others argue that what truly propelled him was an unbreakable work ethic, willingness to pivot between genres at a time when purists were quick to cry foul. Whatever the reason, his path was anything but straightforward. From hush-hush conflicts with record labels to the staggering choice that nearly led fans to believe he had abandoned his roots altogether, the journey of Ricky Skaggs is a riveting kaleidoscope of achievement and turmoil. And if you thought you already knew the man behind the music, prepare to discover that he's been juggling controversies, reinventions, and a steadfast faith that has both inspired and infuriated. Hang tight, because what came next exposed sides of him that the public never saw coming. Ricky's early years read like something out of a folk tale. Born on July 18, 1954, in Cordell, Kentucky, he was raised among rolling hills and the echo of gospel tunes floating through church doors every Sunday. That environment alone would have shaped his artistic spirit, yet what truly set him apart was an uncanny gift for creating music. Family accounts say he could sing even before articulating a full sentence. Then there's the fabled story of how he picked up a mandolin at 5 and instantly began picking notes like a miniature master. By the time he was 6, he was called to the stage by Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass, leading locals to whisper that little Ricky was a musical savant. Word traveled fast that a child from a sleepy Kentucky town had a knack rivaling older performers. Neighbors would drive from miles around to watch him play. Some believed his talent came from a higher power. Others guessed it was practice spurred by parents who saw a star in the making. The truth was simpler. Ricky Skaggs breathed music like oxygen. Though he worshipped bluegrass, his young mind was curious about new sounds. That spark nudged him toward a bigger stage. Even as a kid, he was standing at a crossroads. Preserve the purest form of bluegrass or combine it with changing popular music. While nobody knew which route he'd choose, once he stepped into the wider world, rumors flew that record executives were eyeing him, eager to shape his future. This phase marked the beginning of a rise that would propel him beyond local acclaim, and in the process, invite skeptics to question whether he was ready to leave his roots behind. As word of Ricky's talent reached beyond Kentucky, he embraced bigger adventures. In his teenage years, he wasn't noodling on a mandolin at local gatherings. He was standing side by side with seasoned musicians, showing the audience that even youth couldn't dampen his mastery. By the early 1970s, he was part of bands, stepping into recording studios and dabbling with fresh styles. Everyone saw that he revered Bill Monroe and Ralph Stanley, but he also craved innovation. Blending old-school bluegrass with contemporary flair might have been radical, but Ricky appeared unfazed by potential backlash. His alliances with progressive artists exposed him to fresh audiences who were less enchanted by fiddles and banjos, and more eager for the slick polish dominating radio. Still, Ricky refused to ditch his roots. Instead, he slipped traditional licks into modern frameworks, captivating some and irking others. Major labels started to hover, recognizing an artist who could bridge hardcore traditionalists and mainstream fans. Private chatter, however, questioned whether he'd watered down the soul of bluegrass. Defenders said he was making the music accessible. Critics saw him chasing at the expense of authenticity. Nevertheless, momentum snowballed. Offers poured in, and Ricky took calculated risks, deciding that stagnation was worse than evolving. The entire time, a group of purists muttered that he was flirting with commercialization that might smother the raw edge of bluegrass. That clash between progress and preservation formed the bedrock of Ricky's early career, raising questions about whether he'd remain a small-scene darling or surge into widespread stardom. It turned out, though, that destiny had large-scale plans for him, and his next foray into mainstream country would both cement his legacy and intensify the grumblings from skeptical observers. By the dawn of the 1980s, country music was shifting, and Ricky saw an open door. Audiences were evolving, and so was the industry. Purists tried to clamp down on the old ways, but major labels were hungry for success. Ricky seized that moment, producing polished singles that soared on country radio and introduced him to listeners who had never embraced bluegrass. Suddenly, the name Ricky Skaggs was more than a curious buzz in niche circles. He was scaling the charts and headlining major venues. Yet triumph rarely comes without controversy. Certain bluegrass devotees whispered that he'd sold out, turning his back on the core heritage that shaped him. Ironically, mainstream fans praised him as the guy who brought real musicality to a genre sliding into pop territory. It was a balance, and Ricky found himself pulled between two extremes. Awards began stacking up, Grammys, CMA honors, while cynics insisted each trophy took him further from his bluegrass soul. Was he forging a captivating blend or veering off course? The debate raged. Even with opinions swirling, Ricky pressed onward. The radio-friendly tracks were hits, and his concerts drew a cross-section of fans, those who longed for fiddles and those content with a slicker style. The press labeled him a unifier, bridging gaps in American music. But behind the applause, he felt the weight of expectation from every corner. Should he double down on mainstream success, or circle back to the unfiltered sound of his upbringing? That tug-of-war between progress and purity followed him like a shadow, hinting that no matter how high he climbed, something in his gut still yearned for the sound of home. While the world debated his musical direction, Ricky's deep Christian faith took center stage for many fans. He never hid his devotion, and for some listeners, it made his performances feel heartfelt. But faith can stir its own set of controversies. Rumors circulated that he'd snub certain opportunities if they conflicted with his moral code, fueling speculation that a larger career might have been within reach had he been more flexible. Sponsors reportedly backed away, wary that the spiritual undertones might alienate parts of the audience. To Ricky, compromising belief wasn't an option. Divisions emerged among followers. Some cherished his transparency, calling him a principled presence in a business often driven by profit. Others felt uneasy, insisting they wanted the music without the religious overtones. Periodically, critics hinted that his emphasis on faith risked limiting mainstream appeal. Ricky brushed it aside, reminding interviewers he owed all his blessings to a higher power. The tension between commerce and conviction became a defining subplot of his journey. Even so, he gained loyal admirers who appreciated his refusal to separate music and message. In a chaotic industry, that unwavering stance was unusual. Behind closed doors, industry insiders debated whether a devout artist could ascend to unstoppable superstardom. Skeptics pointed to cautionary tales of others who'd put beliefs front and center to see their popularity wane. But Ricky barreled forward, trusting that integrity meant more than acceptance. Yet while faith anchored him, new challenges soon surfaced, both in alliances with other musicians and in broader creative decisions. The question looming was whether his devout stance would elevate him or box him in. For every chart-topping star, a network of collaborations can boost or hinder momentum, and Ricky Skaggs was no exception. His early work with Emmylou Harris's Hot Band opened him to listeners who once dismissed bluegrass as archaic. He also teamed with icons like Ralph Stanley and Dolly Parton, forging ties that yielded beloved records and showcased his knack for elevating fellow artists. Yet whispers of internal friction arose. Some bandmates felt overshadowed by his perfectionism, while others praised him as a leader who refused to compromise quality. Creative differences happen in any high-stakes setting, and Ricky's circle was no different. A few claimed he micromanaged, determined to preserve an authentic yet marketable sound. Others admired his focus, saying it propelled group performances to new heights. Whether he was an overbearing taskmaster or a visionary who demanded excellence depended on one's perspective. Most fans, however, cared more about the electrifying results than any backstage tension. The best partnerships led to memorable live sets, collaborative albums, and award show moments that still light up conversations. But it wasn't always smooth sailing. Big personalities can clash, especially when everyone aims for the spotlight. While some credited Ricky for seamlessly bridging generations, critics pointed out that he exerted notable influence. Still, the music usually spoke loudest, and audiences kept cheering. Then came a startling announcement that had admirers buzzing. Ricky was heading back to his roots in a way that nobody quite expected. In the late 1990s, Ricky Skaggs surprised many by stepping away from mainstream country and diving back into bluegrass. Some saw it as inevitable, given his lifelong love for mountain-born sounds. Others were baffled. He still had radio hits, so why retreat to a genre often viewed as less profitable? Industry insiders who banked on his crossover success were uneasy. Gossip circulated that they begged him to reconsider, dangling bigger paychecks if he stayed the pop country course. Meanwhile, purists rejoiced. They hailed this move as proof that he valued heart over commercial gain. But newer fans who craved glossy production worried they might lose him to a more rustic sound. Ricky pressed on, starting Skaggs Family Records to control his output. Rumor had it he'd been feuding with label execs, pushing him toward radio-friendly tunes. Or perhaps he felt spiritually pulled toward simpler music. In any case, he planted both feet in bluegrass again. Not everyone understood the shift, but it gave Ricky a renewed sense of purpose. He rebuilt professional alliances and reassured partners that his choice wasn't career sabotage. Critics questioned turning his back on a larger audience, yet in interviews he radiated satisfaction about rekindling the rapid-fire picking that first inspired him as a kid. Over time, the gamble paid off, netting him fresh accolades and a devoted base. Whether it was risky or brilliant, it brought him closer to the essence that defined his musical life all along. With his focus restored, Ricky earned more honors, solidifying his place as a guardian of tradition and an innovator. He snagged additional Grammys and joined the Country Music Hall of Fame. His live shows, backed by Kentucky Thunder, echoed with the unfiltered energy that first put him on the map. Still, doubts lingered about whether clinging to tradition might limit his staying power. The music world moves fast, and younger acts kept emerging with novel twists. Some critics worried that by pouring himself into bluegrass, he could alienate the wider audience he'd gained during his crossover years. Others argued authenticity resonates more powerfully than chasing trends. Ricky's faith was also never far from discussion. He sometimes turned down gigs that conflicted with his convictions, spurring talk that certain promoters avoided him. None of these whispers truly derailed his momentum. Fans described him as gracious during meet and greets, unwavering on stage, and steadfast in interviews. If a few naysayers claimed he was out of touch, sold-out venues told a different tale. He balanced fame without abandoning the passions that guided him. Whether mainstream tastes might overshadow him someday seemed secondary. He was still picking his mandolin, championing fresh talent, and remaining true to his beliefs. That bond between heritage and devotion fueled his final transformation, painting a portrait of an artist who refused to let shifting winds dictate his direction. Even now, Ricky Skaggs remains an active force in music, surprising fans with new projects and appearances. Over recent years, he's leaned into mentoring roles, championing emerging artists who share his devotion to intricate picking and soul-stirring storytelling. He's taken the stage at major festivals, delighting audiences with electrifying jams that prove his fingers still fly across the fretboard. Videos of these performances rack up countless views, as younger listeners discover the timeless thrill of pure, unfiltered bluegrass. Talk has also swirled about documentary plans. rumored to delve into Skaggs' life from those early Cordell days to his modern-day standing as a Hall of Fame mainstay. Friends claim it will highlight both his unwavering faith and the personal challenges he's often kept private. Meanwhile, longtime devotees keep their eyes on any fresh collaborations that might see him stepping beyond bluegrass boundaries once more. People wonder if he'll attempt yet another crossover experiment, or if he's content to stay true to the form he reveres. For Ricky, the present seems to blend reflection and renewal. He's watching a new generation inherit the traditions he helped nurture, all while showcasing his own enduring mastery. Even as trends come and go, he keeps forging connections that bridge eras and styles. It's the mark of a legend who refuses to let age or shifting tastes dim his passion, reminding the world that music rooted in authenticity will always find eager ears. That journey continues now. In the end, Ricky Skaggs' story testifies to the unpredictable paths of a true artist. He grew from mandolin-wielding child wonder to a country radio mainstay, collecting awards and admirers at every step. Yet the core of his saga is the tension between old and new, prophet and principle. Each move sparked questions. Had he caved or stayed genuine? The chatter only intensified once faith entered the discussion, coloring how fans and insiders perceived his decisions. Even so, one trait never wavered: a deep respect for the music that shaped him, underpinned by a spiritual grounding that fueled his creativity. He reached both mass audiences and staunch purists, revealing that longevity often demands sacrifice. Some criticized his commercial ventures. Others applauded how he infused classic sounds with contemporary zest. And while he might have bypassed certain big-money deals for the sake of belief, he still rose to legendary status without discarding what he held sacred. Today, performing with undiminished fervor and moral clarity, Ricky embodies someone who never truly abandoned his origins. Even in his highest-profile moments, the essence of bluegrass remained alive. When he doubled back, it felt less like retreat and more like reclamation. He took ownership of his work, surrounded himself with like-minded virtuosos, and bridged generational gaps through pure, heartfelt picking. That unwavering posture continues to draw fans. Many sense the honesty in each performance, recognizing that none of it happened by accident. He's living proof that you can court mainstream acceptance without losing your core. In an era dazzled by passing fads, he clings to something older and perhaps more profound, and audiences can't get enough. Maybe the real surprise is how gracefully he's maintained humility amid triumph and critique. So for those who pegged Ricky Skaggs as a figure stuck in the past, think again. He demonstrates that success can involve a willingness to stretch boundaries, then circle back to what feels most authentic. Yes, he took heat for straddling genres, for stepping into pop-influenced realms, and then for choosing to leave them behind. But if you listen close, you'll hear a steadfast soul who never truly lost his way. He expanded his reach, honored his convictions, and proved that making it isn't about forfeiting your heart. That is the essence of Ricky Skaggs. Each note captures the lessons he learned along winding roads, from Kentucky's hollers to grand stages worldwide. Controversies? They're the toll exacted when forging fresh trails. Rumors? They reflect the complexity of an artist who refused to settle. And if his unwavering devotion irritated some, so be it. In the grand mosaic of American music, Ricky has etched a tale of commitment, grit, and an eternal love for the sounds that spoke to him as a child. Ultimately, greatness isn't about chart positions. It's about choosing a path that honors both who you are and who you aspire to be, then letting the music speak for itself. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.